Now, everybody knows not to share their lunch with a bear because the bears start to figure out that the food comes from the people and then you've got a real problem. But did you know lizards can do the same thing? You're going to see a lace monitor that is so sure that Steve's got some lunch in his pocket, he actually dives in the water just to try to get it.
Fraser Island is home to over 40 freshwater lakes, and this is Lake Boomergen, the largest perch lake in the world.
And here is a lace goanna sitting over the top watching for a feed around the lake. And as I cruise around with my camera looking for wildlife to film, he thinks that I might be a food source. The Crocodiles proves that I take a few bites from lace goannas, and I certainly don't want to take a bite from this one, even though he thinks my nose might be edible. Let's see. Flicking. He can't quite work it out. He's never seen a bloke in goggles and a snorkel. Here he comes. Nope, I'm going back to the edge. Maybe I can eat it. Here he comes again. Nope, I'm going back. Yes, no. He's not sure. Here he comes. Look out, Steve-O. He's going to latch onto you. He's trying to eat my nose. Whoa! Safest thing to do if a lace goanna's going to eat your nose is duck under the water. Hang on. Go, Steve. Duck under. He can't get me under the water, and he quickly heads straight back to the bank. Lace goannas have got sharp teeth, and I'd hate to take a bite on the face. Look at this. He swims just like a crocodile. Our croc files go up into northern Queensland into crocodile territory. And we travel through the estuaries to a beautiful sand dune which goes straight down into the mangroves. This place is alive with wildlife, and our little dog Suey, she's come along to help us to find some of the wildlife. She just loves it. And this sand goanna sees us before we see it, and it retreats down into its burrow. Sand goannas are one of the biggest and best burrowing lizards of Australia. And being a goanna, they're also amongst the largest lizards in the world. Ah, there it is. After locating it, I just gently grab hold of its tail and I'm able to tickle it in and around its legs until it releases its grip, and gently we pull it out of its burrow, and what a beauty! It's a big male, and it's sticking its tongue out trying to sense the air and work out what we are. They've got great eyesight, great set of nostrils, and that forked tongue. Beautiful pinky blue forked tongue, and it's forked to pick up air particles. They smell with their tongue. Look at those scars on its chest. Male sand goannas will fight throughout the year. They'll use those big, heavy, muscular legs to get up and fight with other males. They'll fight for territory, they'll fight for females. Great set of claws for digging, and this one's got a pretty full belly. He looks great. Oh, he's given Terri a bit of a lick. Oh, there you go, a lick on the nose. Well, that is about as close as you can get to a sand goanna without taking a chomp. When we release him, he goes straight for his burrow.
Wow, that was one big daddy of a sand goanna. Now, I think he's definitely in the mood for food. So if we have a look around, we might discover that eggs are on the menu.
As our search continues, we get to see a very integral part of the sand goanna's life cycle. In this dirt, you see that movement? That little bit of vibration happening in the sand. It's sand goanna eggs, and they're hatching. As I gently push the dirt back, a little baby sand goanna sticks his tiny little head out of the dirt. They're hatching out of eggs.
Sand goanna can't tell friend from foe, and he doesn't realize that Steve's a big mammal that could be potentially dangerous. He's a little bit innocent as he tastes everything. Being defensive, he'll bite, and being curious, he puts his little tongue out. Once he's figured out that there's danger around, he bolts really quickly. Steve's got to look for the others and make sure that they're all going to be able to hatch okay. The danger is that the big sand goanna might come along and make a meal out of them. The sandies are very movement-oriented, and they'll grab any little rodent or reptile that flits along, not realizing it might be one of its own kind. And the eggs could take several days before they all hatch out. They're like perfect little ping-pong balls, and each sand goanna inside has a tiny little egg tooth on the end of his nose, and he only has that for a short amount of time to help him get out of the egg. So what he'll do is he'll move around inside that egg, and he'll have to work his own way out. Now, as Steve reveals them, we count that there are several eggs left to hatch, and you'll notice that soft indentation on the top. That means the egg is still viable. Any eggs that weren't fertile when they were laid would have gone soft and rotten by now. Once they push their nose through that little opening, then they're ready to emerge. Their tongue flicks out, tasting for any danger, their eyes open up, and they'll have their first look at the world. That fluid coming out of the egg is called umbio. That's protected them inside the egg and helped keep it at a constant temperature for the entire incubation. When they look around and their eyes open, they might have to make a run for it if there's a predator nearby. They'll take their first breath and prepare themselves for life outside the egg.
It must be a pretty scary sight, opening up your eyes, and here's my ugly head looking at you.
I think so. You're right on the money there. Now, when this little guy can finally uncoil, he's all sticky, bit of a mess. He's got a tiny little opening where his belly button will be, and that's where the egg yolk has been absorbed. It might take him a few days to use up that yolk, but that will give him the nutrition he needs until he can hunt on his own.
Australia is like the land of the reptiles. We've got over 700 species of them right here. Of course, the biggest lizards in the world are the goannas. And then you've got the dragons, like the frill-necked and the bearded dragon. And the smallest, tiniest little lizards in Australia are the skinks. Have a look at these little ones. Now, these are Cunningham skinks. They're very common here in Australia, and they love their fruit and vegetables. You can tell they're skinks because they got nice shiny scales, although these ones have got scales, modified scales on their tail, which enables them to jam themselves into rock crevices. They got a good sense of sight, hearing, and smell. Big, large, fleshy tongue, and there's a combination of babies and adults. Beautiful. Some skinks are brightly coloured. You can see this rock skink has got a bright orange flank, and he uses that to attract the girls. Once the girls see his orange jacket, they go, woo, and fall in love with him. Beautiful little lizard. Ah, let's give him a pat under the throat. He's a beauty. Okay, little one, now you make a run for it up this rock. You can hear the crackling of the leaves under our feet. This recent crocodile vision is in Cape York Peninsula just before the wet season.
This little dragon is gravid, which means she's got a belly full of eggs. Now, dragons and other reptiles somehow instinctively know when the wet season is going to come. So now, before the wet, during the dry, is when she'll lay her eggs.